Hello, can you hear me now? You should be able to hear me now. Happy Pride Month. I'm Leah Bison, and I'm back to take you on a tour of this month's episode of Forza Monthly. We've got the schedule here for today's show. First things first, we got Series 24 update with Dave Orton from Playground Games. Then we'll be moving on to the Special Olympics event, where we'll be having a chat about the Special Olympics. Not too long ago, Xbox and the Special Olympics partnered for a Forza Motorsport 7 tournament, and we get to tell you all about it. After that, we're going to look at the esports update with Ali Tak. He'll be back to report on more events in the Forza community esports world. And finally, we're going to meet another requested community member who has been making cartoons for the community since the very first Forza Motorsport. So, first up, we're going to welcome Dave Orton, the game designer at Playground Games. Welcome to the show, Dave.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. So, yeah, it's a real honor. It's my first time doing a Forza Monthly. So, yeah, happy to be here.
Absolutely. Welcome. You're going to be telling us all about Series 24. Apparently, we've got lots of lovely new cars. So for those of us who missed the Forza Horizon 4 stream earlier, please tell us what's coming and how do we get it in our garage?
Right. So we've got 4 new cars coming. First up, we've got the Zenvo TSRS. Now, this is an absolute beast. 1,177 brake horsepower, supercharged V8, 0 to 60 in 2.8 seconds. So really, really super fast car here.
It looks fast, if a car can look fast.
Yeah, which is where, yeah.
And it sounds brutal as well. Like, is this street legal? If this revved up outside my house, I'd be fuming.
So amazingly, this is street legal, yes. I don't really know how they did it, but yeah, the thought of driving this just to go get some milk would be incredible.
Seems a bit overkill, doesn't it? Yeah. And I hear the wing on this car is its claim to fame, if you want to tell me more.
Yes. So this has a really cool wing that not only moves forward and backwards, but also left and right, depending on when you steer. And the reason behind that is to give you a real increase in grip. So yeah, it's a super amazing part of engineering. And obviously we've got all that detail locked up in Forza Horizon. So yeah, really, really cool car. And you'll be able to get this by completing our new feature, which is a photo challenge. We've got a new photo challenge in summer called #TheHeadlineAct. So head over to Festival Playlist, complete that challenge, and you'll be able to get your hands on your very own Zenvo TSRS.
If you can hear anything else alongside it while you're driving it.
So let's move on to the next one then.
Yeah.
Great. So this is the Ford Escort Mark II from 1977. 250 brake horsepower, inline 4 engine. Really awesome rally car that was driven by lots of notably awesome drivers, notably Bjorn Beauregard. He was the first WRC champion in this car. He used this very one here.
It feels like to me this is like the classic car of cars. This is like the car that my dad always went on about, his favorite Ford Escort.
Yeah, it's super awesome. It's a really, really great rally car. It's just built for rugged terrain, but it just looks cool as well. I just love the look of it. It's super fun.
Well, the classic sort of box shape going on. And apparently this car is related to a little story behind another car.
So we're adding another car, the GT70, which we'll come to in a bit. This car actually pretty much took the main stage from the GT70. So this was kind of Ford's main showcase rally car. The GT70 just couldn't quite get to it, but we'll talk about that in a minute. You can get this car by completing 50% of winter in the festival playlist.
There you go. You can have the, well, I say iconic. Every car is iconic in its own way, isn't it? I feel like every single one has its own story.
Yeah, exactly. We picked them because they're all, we picked the iconic ones. So it doesn't, it makes perfect sense that they're all iconic. It's great.
Absolutely.
Let's move on. Cool. So this is the 1985 Mazda RX-7. Beautiful car and the first generation of RX-7. Absolutely awesome. Very, very iconic. I'd say in terms of Mazda, it's one of the most iconic cars that they put out. It's got a really cool rotary engine as well. It's a different to piston engine, but what that means is it's got a really smooth but high revving engine, so it sounds really loud and really, really cool car.
Yeah, and how do you unlock this car in the Series 24 update?
So you'll be able to unlock this car by completing the adequately named Midtown Mazdaness Championship, that's the one, in spring, festival playlist for spring. So make sure you hop into that season event, complete it, and you'll get your very own hands on the first RX-7. So yeah, super exciting.
Amazing. And finally, we've got the car we teased about.
The one we've all been waiting to see. It's the Ford GT70. So this one's got a really interesting story. It was designed to compete against cars like the Lancia Stratos and the Alpine A110, which were dominating tarmac rallies at the point. So this was kind of Ford's, was hoping to be Ford's answer to that. But it didn't really live up to the hopes that they'd had, and didn't really perform that well. So it's kind of got an interesting story there,
yeah. Yeah, it's like a bit of a rare car, isn't it? Bit of a very few made, I've heard.
Yes. So there were only 6 of them made. You know, they set out to make about, I think, 500 to fit in with homologation rules, but only 6 were made. And then of those 6, only 3 of them were raced. So yeah, it's a bizarre story. But of the 3, the one of them had frequent mechanical issues during its run. The second, unfortunately, crashed into a bridge and didn't even finish. And then the third one, it kind of did, it did perform, but it was just plagued with issues throughout its run. So after that, the GT70 development was stopped pretty quickly after that, because the Escort Mark II, the one we saw earlier, was the better one to go for.
And that's one of the cool things about, well, just games like Forza Horizon, really. This is a car that only potentially, 6 people in the world have been able to drive properly. And you can do it. You can drive it. That's so cool.
Exactly. You can all get your hands on one. And that's what I love about it. It's like the story behind this car is the car that never was, right? And but now you can get behind it. And you can get this car by completing the Up Your Street Championship in autumn, which is in the festival playlist. So make sure you get down to that. Super cool car with lots of history behind it. So yeah, super excited to see you guys get behind the wheel of it.
Like a car that almost didn't happen, as you said to me. And it sounds like a meaty car as well.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it's awesome. Absolutely awesome. So yeah, they're the 4 cars we're adding for Series 24, along with a wealth of really hard to find cars as well.
Oh, lovely. So earlier, I heard you talk a little bit about a little thing called photo challenges. And I think people who are watching probably want to hear about it as well. So what are the photo challenges?
So photo challenges are a new feature we're adding to Series 24. They're basically challenges you have to complete with a photo. So it's kind of in the name, really. So you have to take a picture of a car, maybe in a specific location, maybe a specific car with a landmark in the background. A few examples of that would be something like a Lamborghini with the lighthouse, or a Ford Anglia with the viaduct in the background. So really taking you to really cool, interesting places to see your take on the photos.
And each of these challenges is like it's got a hashtag in the title, right? So like, what are you doing with that?
Yes. So yeah, every single challenge has a hashtag, and the reason for that is because we want you guys to share your photos online. Maybe compete with your friends so you can get the best photo. We're always blown away by how creative the community is. You guys create fantastic photos, and that's actually partly why we put this feature in. We want to reward people for making and taking fantastic photos. So, for example, the photo challenge in summer, you're going to get the Zenvo that we just looked at earlier. So there's some really cool rewards that we can tie behind this new feature. But yeah, definitely want to see what people can do, how creative they can get. If they, the best ones will be featured on our streams as well. So we really want to connect the things you guys are doing on social media to the game.
That's so cool. And I mean, like, what kind of challenges should we be expecting to see then? What kind of things you got lined up?
Yes, well, let's walk through this one. If you go back to the festival playlist picture. Cool. So here it is hashtag Muddy Good Time, and you got to take any extreme off-road car and take a picture of it at the Mud Kickers Adventure Park. Those cars were built for that location. And what you do, if you go to the next slide. So you can see here, we've actually added some photo challenge UI, and that gives you kind of real-time validation of whether your photo is going to complete the challenge or not. For example, here, the photo contains the Mud Kickers Adventure Park, but the photo is taken within the Mud Kickers Adventure Park, but it doesn't contain an extreme off-road car. If you go to the next slide, again, conversely, this photo contains the trophy truck, but it's not within the Mud Kickers Adventure Park. And So when you go into photo mode, you take your photo and you'll get this UI that tells you if you're on track to completing your challenge or not.
Very helpful. So
And
even
then
if
the
you're not super
next,
knowledgeable, you'll still be able to get a little hint if you're in the right direction or not.
yeah, we want to point you in the right direction, and it felt like we needed that kind of feedback to give to players. And if you go to the next photo here,
Yay,
everything's
ta-da.
golded out, 2 ticks. Photo contains the extreme off-road car, and it's taken within the Mud Kickers Adventure Park. Really cool photo finish. And yeah, so for 100%, be creative with these photos and show us what you can do. You get rewards. So here you get super wheel spin and 1,000 influence to your photography thread. And then there's lots of rewards tied in with that as well. So they're super exciting. Cannot wait to see what you guys do with these photo challenges.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us today, Dave. The Series
you so
24
much.
content update will be available tomorrow for you guys to get your hands on. But next up, we're going to talk about Forza's involvement in the Special Olympics. So take a little look at this. So we wanted to chat a little bit about Special Olympics and how Forza have specifically been involved. And today we'd like to give you some idea of what a Special Olympics virtual event means to its competitors. So it is a very big deal. And we are joined by Jen Panatoni, the program manager of Xbox's Gaming for Everyone team. Jen, thank you so much for being here. Welcome.
Thanks for having me. Love it.
No, absolutely. I mean, so what can you tell us about Gaming for Everyone, and so how is it involved in this initiative?
Yeah, absolutely. So Gaming for Everyone is Xbox's commitment to making sure gaming really is a place where everyone can have fun. And there's a lot that goes into that, but focusing specifically on the Special Olympics, Microsoft has been partnering with the Special Olympics since 2014, and we were approached back in 2018 to do a tournament at the USA Games, which is still one of my favorite things I've done to date. And then with the whole pandemic happening, Special Olympics, they're great partners with Microsoft, reached out to us and said, hey, can we do it again? And we're like, sure, let's try it. It's going to be totally different, but we'll figure it out.
It sounds like a pretty big challenge. And so how did Forza specifically become a part of this?
Yeah, Forza, we picked the game specifically because just the sheer amount of, adaptable controls and different inclusive aspects and features that are part of the game. So it was, we used it back in 2018, and then we were talking about 2020, and we're like, you know what, Forza, we had a great time with 2018. Let's just keep it going with 2020.
Absolutely. So, I mean, this started back in 2018. So what's the journey been like over the last few years?
Yeah. In 2018, we had the USA Games in Seattle, Washington, which Microsoft being headquartered in Redmond, Washington, just right across the lake. They came to Xbox and said, hey, we want to try this thing. And we were like, cool, tell us about it. And they like, we want to do an esports tournament. It had actually been brought up. Microsoft has a hackathon, and there was a Hack for Good challenge. So people are like, how can you create some idea with a nonprofit that is brand new? And this came out of that. And so we tried it, and we really, something that was really important to us is, esports is becoming more and more prevalent, as the years go by. I mean, I always joke that I was born 10 years too early, because my brother and I would have gotten full ride scholarships to college for esports. And so we just decided, like, let's try it, see what happens. We want to kind of lower the bar to entry, because esports has gotten so competitive, but also maintain that competitive rigor and the action. And it was, in 2018 was such a huge success. We had a national turnout. And in 2018, we decided, let's go bigger, see what happens. But then with the added challenge of not having a physical event. And so taking the learnings that we had in 2018, but applying them to an all virtual experience due to the pandemic, because a lot of the services that are offered to Special Olympics athletes are drastically impacted right now. A lot of the traditional sports were being canceled, and a lot of the isolation that people are feeling every day right now due to COVID is actually norm for a lot of these athletes with intellectual disabilities. And so not only is it a great opportunity for them, it's a great empathy building exercise for everyone. And we were just so happy to be asked to come back and do another one in 2020.
I mean, absolutely. And you're talking about all of these gamers that are at home right now. How did you access them, and how do they sort of compete to qualify an event like this?
So we partnered really closely with the Special Olympics on this, and we reached out to different states because there is a Special Olympics international, national, and state level. And we reached out to the states and said, "Hey, who's interested? Who's got time to help us work on this?" Because I'll be honest, it was a tight turnaround. So we had like 14, 15 states reach out this time. In 2018, it was about 5 to 8. And this time, we worked with Turn 10 and Forza Motorsport to give here's the cars, here's the tracks. We need your prelim times. And so they would work with the Special Olympics representative in their area to get the results. And then we would create, here's who qualified, here's who did it. And then let's just go from there and see what happens. And we had 35 amazing athletes show up ready to win this year.
Amazing. So you kind of just gave them a template and said, right, here you go. What have you got?
Exactly.
Give us what you've got.
Like, just tell us when you're done.
I mean, so Xbox are clearly so heavily involved in this. Are they sort of facilitating any other sort of social good gaming this year?
Oh my goodness. There's been a lot of social good and just programs coming out of Xbox recently this year, especially with COVID-19 and a few other different causes that are happening. But specific to Special Olympics, we're happy to do this and we're looking forward to see what comes next.
Absolutely. And on a personal level, it takes a lot of effort to push this stuff forward, especially in a space that doesn't already have an area for it. You're kind of paving the way. So what keeps you going through this?
Oh man, I live for this. I absolutely live for this. I think I've always wanted to be someone who helps others, and gaming has always been hugely impactful to me. I had an older brother growing up, so I didn't get to have Barbies or any dolls because he would break them because he needed a player 2 for Turtles in Time. So, video gaming was just the way my brother and I connected, and it connected me to a bunch of really interesting, amazing people all over the world. And it's something I maintain is it's a force for good. And so being able to provide that opportunity to others has just been one of the greatest, achievements that I've ever been able to help facilitate.
Such a lovely thing to be able to look back on as well, and know you've helped so many people. Well, I mean, speaking of the event itself, we're going to be joined by Ali Tak next, our good friend. He's going to give us a breakdown of the action from this year's event. Welcome, Ali. Hello.
Hey, thanks, Leah. Thanks so much. Yeah, listening to you and Jen converse about it, that just reminded me what a pleasure it was to be a small part of this competition. Just an amazing atmosphere and something I hadn't seen before. Just so much goodwill around the whole competition.
Yeah, I mean, watching a recap of the 2018 event in particular, you could see everyone was so happy and enthusiastic, and the vibe was just amazing. I mean, what was sort of the most striking moment for you, particularly during the event?
There were a bunch of moments where there was really close racing. There was one in I think the Division 4 with the Porsches, which was incredibly close. I think a driver reversed across the line at one point to take the victory. So there was some amazing moments of racing, but also the moments when we changed from Forza and hopped into Minecraft and saw the celebrations there. So many nice moments throughout it.
Amazing. And was it clean racing? Was there a little bit of dirty racing, some trade and paint going on?
I think everyone out there definitely wanted to win, right? So there was the keenness, the urgency to make an overtake from time to time. Some of the racing was a little bit more bumpy than other bits, but in general, I think it was just a really good example of people getting out onto Forza Motorsport 7 and having a huge amount of fun and just enjoying themselves on the track.
Absolutely. I think we've spoken enough. Let's have a little recap of the action that went on.
We were started off with Division 1. The drivers were split into 5 different divisions. And in this one, it was a very close race between Simon Van Gaysen from Washington, who was running very well, Soprano Cheetah. You can see him here in second place, I think just taking the lead in this clip, and took 2 victories in this first race. This was in the Hyundai Veloster. It's a little front-wheel drive sort of tin top, as they call them, sort of very agile little cars, and you can really throw them around the racetrack. And you can see that from the way that these two were driving next to each other. Some really close racing, and definitely some, I mean, as I was saying, there's that urgency to overtake, that want to win. And I think that's what makes it exciting and makes it enjoyable to watch.
I mean, they're clearly all sort of racing to win for sure. I mean, is that something you noticed as well, Jen, in person at the event? Was there a lot of sort of competitive spirit?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Being back in the green room before the event, the competition was just palpable. I mean, everyone's there to have fun, so it's always kind of a good spirit of competition, but they were there to win.
What was the Minecraft part about? What's going on here?
This was awesome. This was a whole arena that was built for the competition by the guys over at Minecraft. It was so great. They had like a green
Wow.
room in there underneath the flame. They had bits and pieces. They had these flags that I'd never seen before. Turned out they were state flags for different parts of the US, as I've been learning since. This is
Allie, I actually brought you a prop. I brought a little reminder in case you wanted to see.
Oh my God, the chicken!
Our good old buddy, the Minecraft chicken, which Allie can get to in a little bit.
That's amazing.
Wow.
I initially thought he was a seagull, so
Not much for a Minecraft player then.
We were just watching, by the way, we were just watching Tim Dempsey, who was the 2018 champion, take victory in division number 2. So that's what we saw just there. Tim was the driver who threw it backwards in his final race, reversed it across the line to take his second victory. It was an awesome race. This is division number 3 now, which I think the drivers here were in the Porsche. That's right, the Porsche GT4. And yeah, some really good racing here between, Kenneth Tillman ultimately was one of the drivers who did really well here. Dragon Lord 9100. So cool because he loves Dragon Ball Z. And his power level is well over 9,000, 9,100, as you see right there.
Amazing. But it's interesting as well, seeing such a wide variety of people coming with all the gamer tags. You're seeing so many different stories playing out.
Yeah, I had the co-caster I was with, Hannah, was chatting about getting some inspiration for her gamer tag while we were out there. This is a very fertile field of places to pick up some ideas from.
Yeah, I think her favorite gamer tag was Mr. Crab Feathers, if I believe correctly.
Brilliant. I think that's the best gamer tag I've ever heard. That's Mr. Crab Feathers. So good.
Look at him go. Wow, yeah. So, and then we had another awesome clip, apparently, so I've heard, with one Colton Rice, who had a double win.
Double win. So the final division, this is division number 5, was Colton Rice taking on Jonathan Blackman. Those two had a really close race over 2 rounds. It was really excellent to see. And Colton especially put together this race paint that was it was awesome on his NASCAR. It had like a little sort of Colton written on the side and had his I think the US flag on top. And yeah, the whole thing was very cool. It's just great to see the drivers out there expressing themselves on track and I think just enjoying the tools they had to work with from Forza Motorsport 7 in order to just have a good time and enjoy themselves. Yeah, really, really cool racing, especially in that 5th division. You can see it right here with Colton. This is his rival, Jonathan Blackman, getting a little wide, and Colton threw it straight past on this run.
Wow.
So much speed carried through it.
He took advantage of that gap, didn't he?
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. He saw the gap and just pinned his throttle and went for it.
Absolutely.
You love to see it. And this is the run up to the line in the end. So Colton taking his second win. We're on board with Jonathan Blackman, but up ahead, yeah, Colton Rice did take that victory and made it 2 for 2. It was some great racing and yeah, well-deserved trip to the top of the podium for Colton Rice.
Absolutely. That's like no holds barred there. The racing was still as close as it could be.
Like there was, yeah, as you say, no holes, but it was serious out there. They're both races. There was like very close battle between first and second at Watkins Glen initially, and then at Road America, as we just saw. And both of them were these kind of passes which kind of have you on the edge of your seat, like they're about to clatter into each other and ruin each other's races, and you don't want to see it. And yeah, the skill of the drivers coming through in the end and showing us just how skillful they are at placing their car inch perfect on that track.
And that's, I think, one of the other cool things is you're seeing a bunch of drivers who you might not have seen in the limelight before. You don't know their styles. You have no idea what to expect from them in terms of what you're going to be watching in a race. It's amazing.
I completely agree. And that comes back again to the great work that Special Olympics did in putting the people in qualifying through into the event. I was just blown away by how competitive every lobby was and how fun it was to watch.
And with that in mind, is there anything you think sort of like the esports pros out there could sort of learn from these players?
I think definitely. There was so many moments throughout it where it was just a race looked like it was over, or people, had a crash at the start of the race, and these drivers were just able to get back on track, get their heads down, and come back and secure really strong results, sometimes winning the races. And that was just so prevalent throughout the whole competition. And, you know, it's that ability to, and it's, you know, it's an athletic ability. That's why we're seeing it from these Special Olympics athletes, that ability to always pump yourself back up, you know, splash some cold water on your face and say, all right, I'm going to get after it. In the second half of this race, I'm going to win this thing.
Absolutely. Is there anything you would add there, Jen?
No, I think Ali, summed it up really, really well. I think one of the things that we, Microsoft and Xbox wanted to do is we'd be remiss without, in 2018, we got custom jerseys made and we had kind of the whole physical experience. So we are mailing all the athletes custom esports jerseys we made for the event. And we actually have medallions that we had made that have the Forza Motorsport logo on one side and then Minecraft on the other, just as a reminder. It's just a little physical memento of you made a piece of history and you did it.
Absolutely. And it means so much to be able to look back on that and think, I was part of that. Amazing.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Jen. Speaking of the pros, it's time to roll this conversation right over into the community esports update. So we're going to say goodbye to Jen. Thank you for joining us. And we're going to take a look right now at the legendary lap.
Is Sebring Raceway, the birthplace of American endurance racing.
The Acura NSX looks good, but completely stupid.
Box goes defensive on the run into T17. Lightning with the over-under up the inside and pushes that move for the lead. Will take it.
Crazy. Frustrating.
I'll just get in trouble with whatever I say.
It's going to be the first difference maker here as they run through the twists and turns. Chasmo with a little bit more of a rotation through the right-hander, more than he would have wanted. And Asics able to get on the power earlier. Will find 1 car length on the exit to Sector 1.
April 1955, the date of birth of the road America.
One of the few tracks in the world to maintain its original configuration since the track opened.
It's a 1969 Chevrolet Nova. Whether it's roll racing on the highway or body rolling around the racetrack, this all-star and American sleeper is a joyous handful.
First of all, I have to say that it's a pretty addictive combination. The mix between the car and track is perfect to have fun in every lap.
On the edge of my seat as we exit the corner, Mango with a big spin and 2 cars on the outside. That's Hydra and Handicap both off the track. On the exit to Canada corner,
we're straight into an important turn, and it's all aggression through the kink for Wesley. See that lean angle, unbelievable. But Bokit has a trick up his sleeve. That's right, we're going to watch it again. That was a clutch kick at 100 miles an hour. Beautiful execution there.
The Cadillac ATS-V. Modern American muscle tucked into a luxury sedan.
Home to indisputably the most iconic race ever in the history of motorsport. You'd be a fool not to treat Bugatti with respect.
Find the line between perfection and absolute chaos as this car just rolls severely around every turn. As you can see here, this long right-handers.
LZR Force 1 powers down to the line, takes victory.
The best battle I've had in any FRC.
Hey, we're back with Ali. Welcome back again. It's time for the Forza Community Esports news. So we've just seen a little legendary lap video. It looks like it finished quite strongly.
I mean, Legendary Lap was so fun. Actually, watching that video got me so hyped for it again. I'd forgotten so many bits of that. Legendary Lap was our chance to look back at some of the most iconic driver and car combinations from Forza RC history. And we jumped into just some great little battles. You saw there the Chevy Nova around Road America. Looking back, that was Jay Rich from MGC. We were celebrating the Chinese driver. We looked at it's Sebring. It was the Cadillac ATS-V, and we were looking at that battle, 3-way battle between Box, Racers, and Lightning. So many different moments, and also great to be able to get some community voices out there chatting about it. A massive thank you to everyone who helped put together videos for that, because they're just such a diverse amount of people chatting about cars and tracks that they love, and the moments from Forza RC they really enjoyed.
I love that. Everyone watching right now, you could be involved if you wanted to. You could do it. You could do it right now.
Sure.
I have to ask, what's the clutch kick? I was watching it and thinking, what's that?
What he was doing was he was on the mid corner and he engaged the clutch. So he took the engine's power away from the rear wheels, revved the engine up with his other foot, as you would if you do an uphill start in a car. And then at 100 miles an hour, once the revs were really high and the engine was in its power band, he released the clutch. And it just gave a little bit of extra power to the rear wheels and tweaked the rotation angle of the car coming around the corner. The skill of doing that and making it faster. Like I can do that, but it's not faster. I'm in the wall.
I was going to say, it sounds like such a precise maneuver to be doing it at that speed as well. Like, Jesus.
It's crazy because these guys are, the amount of laps they're putting in, the amount of finesse they're getting down to about how to get that car around the track and the exact control inputs required to go the fastest way leads them to making up these amazing racing lines, these incredible techniques, and just perfecting them on track. It's awesome to see.
It cannot be underestimated how much skill it takes to do that effectively without crashing. I mean, did any of the sort of drivers sort of rise up to you over the course of the events? I saw we had Chasmo, was it, particularly noticed there?
Chasmo did a great job. Yeah, he was really strong throughout the competition. I think he let it down a little bit in the first round and then came back throughout the competition. So that was really good to see. I think no one was surprised to see Lage. And I don't know if you can call it rising up because he's already so high up in everyone's consideration, and rightly so. Won, I think, 5 out of the 6 events out there, and it just shows how incredibly good at Forza Lage is. And it's very difficult to show that because he's always so smooth, always so controlled. When you watch his laps, you're like, that, but that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing that. And he somehow is another 3 seconds faster on the road. So an incredible driver. There were some names though out there who really did a strong job, and that's like DOR Stamina, Brad out there in the community, putting in the laps and putting in the time and rising up through the ranks. I think getting a top 10 finish in the end. And the same goes for GG Racing, who somebody else who clearly was putting in some hours, putting in some effort onto that, and you love to see how much that effort pays off in terms of results. At the end of the day.
Well, yeah, speaking of that, like, you don't want to assume, I don't like implying when you say, did anyone surprise you? So implying that maybe you weren't expecting much of them. But
I love seeing new people rising up, like through the ranks, if you like. If it was the case that, it's always the same finishing order, then you might as well almost not have the competition. Just mail the prizes out, get it done. So that's what I love to see.
Give them the money done. Bye.
It's a great question. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, that wasn't the only special event in Forza Motorsport 7. Let's see what else happened around the community since our last Forza Monthly.
The highlight of this month on Forza Motorsport 7 for me was the Virtual Mini Challenge UK, a race series supported by Tora and only driven by real-world racing drivers from the Mini Challenge UK. The real-world fans even started to organize watch parties via Skype, so we had a really great community. All those fans and viewers are also hoping for the next series to come.
Lights out, away we go. Good start from the Honda in the middle of the grid. 3 wide down the main, down hanger straight. Is Gunkai about to get shuffled down the order pretty quickly. Still 3 wide as they come into shot. Cream just has the lead, and Sean sends it around the outside of the Honda, but doesn't quite have the grip to get it through as Howard Fuller's in there as well. Fuller sent it down the inside of the 55 car. Composes Howard Fuller of that podium place. Cream though, right under the rear wing. They send it to the inside. Contact, they're in the barriers. They're in the barriers, the leaders are in the barriers. Sean at the Audi's come through. Sean has stole it. Sean has nicked it. Sean steals it in the final corner to win round number 12 of the championship.
4 drivers had fought their way through the top 32 bracket to meet in the semifinals. The viewers had witnessed thrills and spills. Now, the deciding battles for the winner, for the winner, for the winner, for the winner, for the winner. Big entry, big entry. It's working out. Bailey, how's it going? Right into the turn. European into turn 1, doing everything that he can in the lead position right now, but Moody is not letting him get away with it. Preston, big angle up in the lead position, almost backwards into turn 1. And Honda Civic not only able to try to do something with it up in that lead position, big angle into turn number 1. Takes the line beautifully as well. Up the hill now, Chandler. He's in the other zone. He does just that. Massive fight for Chandler. Preston is the winner of the ESCA exhibition at Road Atlanta.
I don't know about you, but that music gave me like real thrash, like, I don't know, 2015 to 2005 flashbacks of montages, like insane movements.
Totally.
What sort of stood out to you this month?
There was some. I mean, first off, yeah, no one makes a highlights video quite like ESDA. It just feels like those kind of classic Halo montages, you know. You'll see the yeah, great stuff. I was getting really excited watching it as well. The first two videos, first of all, are both from racing, so not from drifting. That was Forza Track with their WTCC championship. It's a big shout out to LMP Stats, Track Crow, and Northellen, who came 1, 2, and 3 in that championship. You can check out more stuff from Forza Track at forzatrack.proboards.com. The second championship we saw was the Tourer Mini Challenge, and a big shout out to Ryorg as well, who streamed the whole thing. That's at twitch.tv/Ryorg. Ryorg's been doing some awesome stuff with Legendary Lap as well. It's been good to see him making content in the community, so definitely someone to support. A third thing that's happened in the community wasn't in our highlights reel there, but it's really cool, is FTC Racing, who are putting together like a 1990s GT racing championship. And this is like, it's been put together really well because it's kind of all these cars which are almost road cars, kind of like homologation specials, if you like. And they've kind of turned them into racing spec cars and built them out really cleverly and then put them out onto the track against each other. Right now, Platinum's in the lead of that in the GT1s. And Mellish as well in the lead of GT2. So it's a really cool championship and definitely one to check out there as well.
Amazing. And then you said you saw the drifting as well. It looked pretty amazing. So how does that work?
Yeah, I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on drifting, but it's amazing to watch. I love seeing it. It's all about sort of the art of getting the car sideways, holding that angle, and kind of being smooth with it, right? And as a racing driver myself, as someone who comes from racing, the idea of being smooth is like very auditory. It's about listening and saying like, when are the tires squeaking, and then I should dial back. You don't want to hear the tires squealing. Obviously, that's not the case with drifting. So their idea of what's smooth is a little bit different. That's about holding your drift angle and having like a real nice crisp slide through the corners. Amazing to see Preston, the winner there of the drifting competition, the ESDA exhibition round, CI Chandler in second, and that's AOM Looney in third. You can check them out at official_ESDA on Twitter, and I strongly suggest you do, because they do some great events if you're into drifting.
Amazing. So it sounds like another case, the same thing in racing, where it's a lot harder than it looks. Everything seems to be a lot harder than it looks.
I feel like I play a lot of Forza. I cannot get drifts. I can't make it work. I don't know what's wrong with me, but yeah, it's really difficult.
I mean, I just wiggle the sticks around and hope for the best. I'm like, sometimes it works.
Well,
amazing.
Infinite control inputs over infinite amount of time. You're like monkeys and typewriters, right?
Exactly.
You'll get there, yeah.
So what else do we have to look forward to in July for community esports? Take us through the calendar.
We've got an awesome month coming up ahead of us. First of all, the Le Mans Esports Series are going to return. That's with a new Rivals event. That's at COTA with the 2009 Peugeot 908. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. Next up is the FTC GT Championship, the one I was just talking about with the 90s cars. That's the round at Spa that I've highlighted there, because everyone wants to race around Spa in those awesome 1990s GT cars. The British GT Championship, organised by Tourer, is heading to Silverstone the same week. So both big events that you won't want to miss. British GT at Silverstone makes a whole lot of sense, doesn't it? After that, New Wave Racing are taking V8 supercars to Road America. And then we've got, in that same week, the WeatherTech Sports Car Championship run by the Online Racing Collective at VIR. And that round will have no prototypes, as some of the rounds of the WeatherTech Sports Car Championship in real life just have the GT cars and don't have the prototypes. That's one of the rounds there for that virtual championship. Finally, this is a really cool one to end it off on. New Wave Racing actually appearing twice in our best hits for July. That's a round of the Porsche GT3 series at Bathurst, which is a track which is mostly like, it's a bit like the kind of Forza version of Rainbow Road, if you will. It's like very, very tight, very, very like concrete walls on both sides. It's an incredibly difficult track to like hot lap at, but then taking it out and trying to race there is a whole nother thing. It's going to be awesome. Take part.
That sounds terrifying.
It's very difficult.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah. Well, it's been a pleasure as always. Thank you so much, Ali, for joining us today.
Cheers, Leah.
So, guys, we know how much you enjoy seeing some of the best photos from the Forza community, so we've got a little montage of the latest and greatest here just for you. Lovely. I'm always so impressed by how just artistic you guys are. It's so good. It looks so fabulous. Well, as we continue to bring you some of your most requested creators from the community, we got another one of your choices that particularly stood out to us. You know him as PTG Jamie, and he's regarded by many as the Mozart of tunes in Forza. Welcome to the show, Jamie. Hello.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm a little too humbled to have that kind of an intro. The Mozart, I don't know about that, but I appreciate it, and I want to say hi to everybody in the Forza community, and Mixer and Twitch and everybody all through the years. It's been nice.
I mean, hearing about your history, I feel like it sounds like an earned title, but let's have a little chat about that. Where did you start with Forza? You've been going for a very long time.
Goes back to May of 2005. The very first Forza that came out. Just started playing like everybody else, and just got into the craft of tuning and trying to make stuff work for everyone who wanted to be competitive in a lobby and go out and maybe set some personal best times on rivals, things of that nature. And I've just been working on it since then.
I love that. I love that. You know, some people, you start a racing game and you want to be the best, the fastest racer. And for some people like yourself, you want to be able to make the cars the best they can be inside the game and work to the limitations you got. It's really cool what you've seen in the game. The question that everyone sort of dreads is always the numbers. Like, how many cars do you think you've tuned over the years?
Yeah, that's well over 1,000. There's no doubt. I mean, just in the stuff I have on spreadsheets right now within the recent games, just coming on the Xbox One, adding all of the ones I did on the 360 and the original Xbox, I definitely am over 1,000 tunes that were out there.
I love that you have spreadsheets for them as well. You keep track of everything. That's so much more organized than I could ever be.
Yeah, there's no other way. And then, I have little side notes if it has like the Forza Aero, if it has stock tires, what it's used for. I have drift tunes. I have off-road tunes for the Horizon series.
Wow.
On-road, off-road. Then you have, ones that could take jumps. There's so many different ways that the community uses the shared tunes that I just kind of kept adapting to where and what the needs were.
That's amazing. And like you said, that's 1,000 individual cars as well, not even just configurations.
Yeah.
That's unique cars. That's amazing.
Yeah, there's a lot of them that have more than one tune, but it's definitely over 1,000 particular vehicles in total.
Crazy. So I've heard something that sounds a little bit ominous. Can you tell us a little bit about the Doom IndyCar?
Oh yeah, that one is the first big piece where I got into the community spotlight, if you will. The Scottish Sun, PTG Stuzy B85, he he painted the Doom Indy car, and we were on the Scottish Sun paper.
Wow.
There's actually an ad in there where we're featured, and that was for the Indianapolis 500.
Wow. How long ago was that?
That was in 2016, so May of
Wow.
2016, Memorial Day week.
How many copies of that paper do you have? Just like waiting to frame.
Yeah, just the one. He sent it to me, and this is the first time I was like really recognized by anything. And the article is small, but it was written by Stuart Cullen of the paper, and it's fantastic write up. So I've been following him since then. And a big shout out to Stuzy for allowing me to tune the car for him.
Absolutely, and it's amazing that it's just come into the real world. It's all the real world, but it's a physical manifestation of what you've been up to. I mean, speaking of that, is a lot of people bring their passions from sort of racing games into the real world of motorsports. Is the same? Can that be said for you as well?
Absolutely. If anybody follows me on Twitter, I'm at racetracks all the time. I take pictures. I share pictures of some of the rarest cars in the world that people have only seen on computer screens or watched it on television. I was here for the Koenigsegg Jesko premiere that was here in North America. I've been in, touched, saw most of the rarest cars on the planet.
Wow.
And my family comes along with me, and like for Road America, that's my home track. I'm only about 90 miles away from there, so I can get there pretty quickly.
Kind of like gotta catch them all kind of thing with all the rare cars out there.
yeah, I've been able to do that. So, and that's on the side of doing everything like within Forza. I mean, so my passion for vehicles and cars and racing in general is something I take very, very much to heart.
Yeah, it cannot be understated. I mean, so you've got a few pro tips to share with us right now, I've heard. But to start that off, what does actually tuning a virtual vehicle mean? What does it do?
Well, to make the vehicle that you're tuning work for the particular way you want to drive it. If you are in Horizon, you want to go off-road, there's going to be a separate way to tune an off-road car than there is going to be for Forza Motorsport 7, where you're going to be dealing with a lot of smooth tracks, besides Nürburgring for the most part. So the tuning ways are so vast, and in drifting tunes as well, just completely different. So the presentation that I have here today, we'll go through that. So right away, we'll start off with tire pressure. And what you want to do in both games, Horizon and in Motorsport, is you want to try to stay between 32 and 33 PSI while you're testing your tune. Tire pressures are very important for the way that your car is going to react, if it's going to be lazy on turn in or if it's going to be really sharp. So the higher the pressure, the lower the pressure. When the tires are warm, you want to make sure they're at 32 to 33 PSI. And it's like 2.2 bars, if I'm correct. So when they're warm, so you got to do a lot of telemetry watching on that.
And would you say that sort of mimics real life in the game as well? Is it quite a similar setup as you do in real life?
Well, sure. I mean, if you've ever driven a car with a flat tire, you're not going to have a good time turning. So if you have both tire pressure, you could, the thing doesn't work correctly.
Yeah.
So you definitely want to watch that. Yeah.
Amazing.
So if you go on to the gearing, that is another very important piece. That's going to be a huge advantage to you, especially on launch. So whether it's a rear-wheel drive, front-wheel drive, or all-wheel drive, you're just going to have to make sure that every shift that you do, you want to make sure that you're getting all the torque and all the horsepower matched up into every gear. So every time you shift, you are getting the maximum of each gear. And so that's really important because you're coming out of a turn. You want to have that power. You downshift, you upshift, whatever it is that you're doing, you want to make sure you're getting the most you can out of that vehicle.
All right, now what? What's next? If you've done this, you've done your tire pressure, you've done your gears.
To alignment, yeah. So, for example, alignment. So I have this RC car here, And so there's camber that's involved. So when your camber is adjusted, whether it's negative or positive, it's going to make the car or vehicle work a lot differently. So you want to make sure that you don't have too much negative camber or positive camber. You want to find the sweet spot of every vehicle, again, and that's by watching telemetry. It's pushing down on the D-pad to get that. And a lot of people don't do in Forza is they don't ever adjust the rear toe. And now that is so that the tires go towards each other, like so, as you can see here. And that will give you a little bit more stability in some of the tunes that you do. Again, it's a lot of testing, and then to make sure that you have the caster set correctly as well, for the fact that that is how it's going to work and how you're going to point the car, and that's where that car is going to end up pointing. So you want to make sure that you do that as well.
That's the valuable nugget of information there, is that adjusting the rear toe that not many people seem to do. So that's a little free bit of advice there.
Just want to adjust it a little bit. Too much, just like any of the other settings, and you're going to be into the wall or not going where you want to go. So it's important, and those are the details that go into all of my tunes.
A light touch. Right, okay, next, onto the roll bars. Tell us more.
So the anti-roll bars is an addition to what you do for suspension. So the roll bar will actually go in between inside the suspension here, and you can, even in real cars, they have anti-roll bars, even trucks, whatever you have. And so the anti-roll bar will actually help the suspension in being stiffer, softer, and getting rid of how, like, sometimes you're driving a car that was really old and it'll sway around. In the game, that'll translate as well. And so the sway bars actually, they help that in when you're tuning for all those little minute things that, like, a lot of the esport drivers will talk about, and they know how that works.
Yeah. Whereas for me, if I have a car that doesn't drive the way I want it to, I just get a different car.
Sure.
I don't think about
to the shop, right? You know, that's how it goes. Yeah.
Oh, this one isn't working properly. I'll get a different one. This is what I need to be learning.
Right. So then moving on to the springs, that's another big piece. Is again, I have to go to this. So the spring, as you see here, helps with that. And so softer, it's going to float a little bit more. So maybe that's what you want for more of the off-road. Stiffer is more for like a smooth track where you want to like attack at Monza. As you're going through the parabolica, the car is starting to, shift and push out. But the way the suspension and the camber and the springs working together will help keep that car on the road and helping you stay in front of whoever is chasing you at the time.
That sounds like a difficult thing to balance in Forza Horizon 4. I mean, if you're a casual like me anyway, you're going off-road and then you're on road and then you're off-road and then you're on road. You're all over the place anyway.
So for you, I would say we'd go with the maximum ride height. That way you could take the jumps and, fly around and all that. But if you're going to be going for a time trial or a rival event on the Goliath in Horizon 4, you're not going to want the maximum ride height. You're going to want to find out where that suspension bottoms out, what turns that it works, where the drops are, so that you can maintain. And the point of all of this is to keep all of the traction you can on all four corners of your car. So keeping it on the ground is pretty important.
Okay. So what's next? Dampening?
So with damping, sorry. Yeah, so the damping is all, again, part of the suspension and how fast and how slow the suspension will react in regards to, let's say you're going over uneven terrain, or there's a part of the track that, like Laguna Seca at the corkscrew, for example, you'll have, one tire way up here and you'll have the other tire way up here. And so you want to make sure that when you come back to the flat ground, or if a wheel comes off the ground, that wheel comes back down quickly back on the ground.
Okay. So it's kind of just smoothing it out a little bit. So it's not as
always looking for that balance.
Yeah.
So the aero, it's huge in the Forza world. It's huge. It's a huge advantage to a lot of people who tune. You have so much going on with the suspension, but the aero can really add a lot of traction for a lot of the drivers out there in turns, high speed turns, and so on. What you don't want to do is you don't want to have too much aero where the car is going slower down a main straight. So if you're in Forza 7 and you're going down the Mulsanne at Le Mans, that's going to be slowing you down and someone's going to go right past you. You might be able to catch them in the turns, but so again, finding that correct aero balance. For my tunes, for the most part, I do like to tune without aero because I believe that you can do that. You can do that successfully. Adding aero is definitely how you're going to get on leaderboards and things of that nature. But again, a lot of testing. You got to watch the telemetry, make sure that all of it's working together in harmony. But of course, there's some drivers out there that can basically, like in the esports, that can drive things that nobody else can for the most part, like Ali was saying.
Yeah, absolutely. So is that your famous philosophy around aero, would you say?
I mean, I like to tune without it because I like to make a car work. I like to get into the details and make that car work. Making the suspension work for the car while making the car look like it's stock, without the big wings and things of that nature. So that's one of the things while I tune, that's one of the things that I've always tried to set myself apart from all the other tuners out there, is that there are a large base in the community that loves a stock looking car. And so they call them sleepers and so on and so forth. But I will use aero on some cars as well, especially if I get a request, or if one of the PTG painters has to have aero on there and the big wheels and things of that, I will adjust to that.
You're flexible.
Yeah, flexible.
All right, great. So what's next then?
So going into the braking, this is going to be a preference thing. So there are a lot of drivers out there who like a lot of brake pressure, and there are some out there that don't like a lot of brake pressure. So again, when you're tuning a car, adjusting the slides for the balance, mean 52% on this particular slide, there's a little bit more going towards the front of the car for braking force than it is rear. So drifters do this a lot because they want the rear to slide out all the time. So with a race car, you want to find that particular balance. So anywhere between 50 to 55%. So you can really dive into the turns and braking zones before anybody else can. There's a huge advantage. And then the braking force pressure, that's going to be how much that when you're pulling on the brake, whether you're using a pedal system on a steering wheel, or if you're using the Xbox controller, like a lot of people do, that's just going to be how much braking pressure you use when you pull the trigger. So sometimes there are people that run with ABS where they just go all the way down to the trigger. Where something like this, you can, lightly get into the brakes, achieve the maximum braking, and get in and out of the turn.
You got to be careful with the Xbox Elite controller there, where you have the hair trigger on and you realize you're not actually accelerating the full way or braking the full way.
Right.
All right. So what's the final slide in the tuning pro tip lesson?
So in the differential, if you're going to be starting to tune your own cars, always put in a race differential. It doesn't cost you any PI like it did in the past Forzas. So what that is you can adjust the acceleration and the deceleration of how the car works and how it's putting the power down to the ground. So in this particular slide, we are looking at a 92 Ford Escort RS Cosworth that I tuned in FH4, where it was just all power. It was all for fun. It was for taking out on the Forzathons. So anytime you hit the gas, that thing will take off like a rocket. So this is an all-wheel drive vehicle. So in the balance, it has 50% going to the front and rear. If you have an all-wheel drive car that is going to be for the road for Forza Motorsport 7, you might want to do 40% acceleration in the front, 60 in the rear, and then you want to do like a 60% to the rear of the power so that maybe you can swing it around turns and things like that. It's all in the game of trying to make sure that you're getting the absolute most out of every vehicle that you drive. And every time you hit a lobby, everybody wants to win. And I think having a good tune is a way to go. It's a good start.
Yeah, it definitely. I mean, combined with some fantastic sort of, racing, shave off those seconds and really get you in the lead. Well, thank you so much for that mini masterclass. Before we let you go, though, I've heard there's a little PTG tuning contest going on that people can get involved in.
Yeah, that's right. We've got a tuning competition coming up. It's like a tuning mentorship type thing. And right now we're looking at accepting about 30 people into this contest. And you're going to be driving. It's going to be tuned for B class. It is going to be the Volkswagen. It's going to be no aero. It's a 1998 Volkswagen GTR VR6. Very heavy in the front. Very powerful car. Front wheel drive. So the rules are going to be no aero. You must retain 100% stock appearance. No roll cage. So none of that racy bit. This is going to be about a pure tune. We have a tuning rubric that we're going to use, and everybody that is accepted into the tuning competition, you're going to be graded upon and be looked upon of where you can like adjust. Like, does the car work well here, there, and so on and so forth. So there's going to be a lot of details and feedback coming back for all the participants that go in there. And we will be doing that. We'll be sending that out through Twitter and within our Discord, really trying to see if we can accept more people into the tuning contest and, take it from there and help. Maybe there's some great tuners out there that just don't have the recognition. And that's
Absolutely.
We're looking to, give back to the community as always, making sure that they're involved. Maybe there's somebody out there who wants to learn. This is it. This is the way you're going to learn. You're going to have some of the greatest people, within PTG driving your stuff, beating on your stuff, finding out where it's broken. Maybe it's perfect. Maybe there's, maybe this tuning thing is for you, that kind of thing.
Well, thank you so much. I hope you get lots of participation in your contest, and hopefully some of you guys feel inspired to try out some tuning. I know I've definitely learned a lot that I didn't know before. So thank you again, Jamie, for joining us today.
You bet. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. And like I said, the Forza community, I think, is the best community in gaming.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
You bet. Take care.
Well, that brings us near the end of another Forza Monthly, sadly, but let's quickly take a look at this week's programming schedule. So we got Verena May will be kicking off her July run of Forza Horizon 4 adventures this week, so join her for a pre-4th of July convoy this coming Friday. You can get your alley tack fix again later this week. Can't get enough of him. He'll be back on Thursday with Yachts All Stars. And as you can see here, we've got a lovely lineup for the rest of the week, so tune in whenever you fancy it. Thanks to all of our wonderful guests again today, as always, and to you, our viewers, for tuning in. Answers for all things Forza today. We'd like to leave you with one very sweet treat as we close. This video you're about to see is the work of another PTG favorite, PTG Fox. You might remember his Forza Monthly appearance and his jaw-dropping Forza Horizon 4 created animation from last year. Well, he's at it again, and as something new for all of you, created entirely in the Forza Horizon 4 livery editor. Take a look. We'll see you next time. Bye!